There's a lot of controversy about feeding dishes and whether or not to use them. So today's question is, should you use them or not? Well, I'll tell you after this message from our sponsors. Today's video is sponsored by Game Farms SA. If you are looking to buy any type of farm in South Africa, head over to their website and get in contact. A link will be down in the description. What's up guys, Caroline here from McMerwe Farms and welcome to today's video about feeding dishes. Let me start by saying we use feeding dishes in all our aquariums. That being said, there are some advantages but also some disadvantages if you use them. Let's start by discussing the advantages first. First up, we have food control. Shrimp are like children. They do not eat all the food you give them. They only eat the parts that they like and until they are full. So having a feeding dish helps you to determine how much your shrimp will actually eat within a few hours. This way you can see if you are feeding them too much. If there are still some of the food left after 4 hours, you know you are overfeeding. This brings me to my second advantage of having a feeding dish. You will have cleaner substrate. If you do not have a feeding dish, the leftover food will most likely go into the open spaces between your substrate. It will then either rot and create problems in the long run, or it will just end up looking like this. Your feeding dish, on the other hand, should also not look like this. What you see here is a bunch of old food combined with shrimp waste that would have been in the substrate, but it's luckily now in the feeding dish, so it will be a lot easier to remove. Go and get yourself a large syringe with very hard to bend airline tube and easily suck out all of the debris. Now I want to show you something that I saw on Mark's shrimp tanks. Credit goes to him and a link to his YouTube channel will be down in the description. He placed a piece of food on the glass close to the substrate. In this case I used Shrimp King's Yummy Gum. You can clearly see the food entering the substrate where the shrimp cannot reach it. With a feeding dish, it just spreads out in the dish instead of going into the substrate like this. This means that your microflora will most likely not overpopulate like these did because there will be a food shortage in the substrate. Having microflora is healthy, but too much just looks bad. You will also have more control over things like Planera, as they mostly feed on whatever they can find in your substrate. This brings me to my last benefit of having a feeding dish. Some shrimp food break apart quicker than others. As small pieces of food break off, they do not go into the substrate but rather spread in the dish, as you can see here. This makes it easier for less aggressive shrimp and baby shrimp to get some of the food you feed. So now that you know the advantages, let's talk about the disadvantages. The biggest problem for me is that I have to clean the feeding dishes on a regular basis, at least once a month, but preferably every week. I really don't like cleaning things, but because your light normally shines at a direct angle on the feeding dishes, they tend to grow green algae a lot quicker than any other place in your aquarium. For the sake of your shrimp's health, it is better if you clean the dish to avoid your shrimp sitting in an ammonia generating spot that can kill them. Secondly, you should not put the feeding dish back in the same spot after cleaning it. The gravel below the feeding dish tends to grow things like cyanobacteria, blackbeard algae, and a lot of other weird stuff that you don't want. So as long as you do not put them back in the same spot after every time you clean them, you should be okay. Okay guys, now for your 3 tips. Tip number 1. You don't have to buy the nice looking expensive feeding dishes. Glass ashtrays are a lot cheaper, but they just don't look as nice. Tip number 2. I have found that glass works best as opposed to ceramic or stone dishes. It is easier to see when it's dirty and you don't have to worry about it leaching anything that will be harmful to your shrimp. And lastly, tip number 3. Rather get a bigger feeding dish than a smaller one to avoid your shrimp becoming over aggressive and having to fight in a small space to get their fair share of the food. So, to sum up, should you use a feeding dish? Absolutely. Just clean it properly every now and then, and after cleaning it, do not put it back in the exact same spot. Your aquarium will be a lot cleaner and you will create a safer environment for your shrimp. But that's it for this video guys. If this video sucked, you know what to do, but if it was awesome, get subscribed, press that like button and check out our other videos. I hope you guys learned something today, and as always, keep it shrimple.